At Friday brunch, she said, "I'm canceling the wedding because I don't love you." I calmly took off my engagement ring and asked her friend, "How about a date? I'm free now." Before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe. It happened at Table 12 on the rooftop terrace of Meridian Sky in Dallas Deep Ellum. The kind of Friday that smells like barbecue smoke and possibility. We were celebrating the last weekend before our wedding. Friends, family, laughter, bottomless mimosas. Amber had organized the whole thing. Elegant succulents in mason jars. Personalized menus with Captain Colton plus Amber Forever, printed in flowing script. She was glowing, posting Instagram stories every 10 minutes. The ring catching sunlight as she gestured. And then, with the Dallas skyline sparkling behind her like a backdrop, she dropped a bomb that grounded everything. "I'm canceling the wedding," she said, setting down her mimosa with surgical precision. "Because I don't love you." Time. Didn't freeze. It got turbulent. A fork clattered onto a plate. Someone choked on their drink. I didn't blink. Just stared at her like I was reading weather radar in a storm, processing the impossible data in front of me. "What did you just say?" Amber met my eyes, her voice steady and public. "I said I don't love you, Colton. You're stable, predictable." She shrugged like she was talking about sending back undercooked eggs. "I thought that's what I wanted, but it's not." My throat tightened, but years of emergency training kicked in. Stay calm, assess the situation, execute the plan. The same protocols that kept passengers safe at 30,000 feet now held me together at table level. "So, what is this? A farewell brunch with a surprise ending?" "It's honesty," she said, lifting her chin. "I'd rather say it now than walk down the aisle lying." "How noble," I muttered, pushing my chair back slowly. "You wait until all our friends are here. The venue's booked. My parents flew in from Austin. Hell, my grandfather's military pilot wings are sitting in my apartment waiting to be my something old. Now you find your honesty?" A few heads turned. Amber didn't flinch. "I needed to see how you'd react," she said, eyes narrowing just enough to hint at something deeper. "I needed to be sure." "Wait a minute." I laughed once, bitter and sharp. This wasn't a confession, this was a test, like those emergency scenarios they run us through in recurrent training, except this one was designed to see me crash and burn. "I needed to know if you'd fight for me," she said, "not just roll over like you always do when things get uncomfortable." The silence wasn't silence anymore. It was pressure, thick and charged, like the air before a thunderstorm. I could feel everyone watching us like we were the entertainment they hadn't paid to see. The whole terrace seemed to lean in, waiting to see if the captain would lose his composure. I stood up slowly and slipped the engagement ring off my finger, held it for just a second. The weight of it, 3 months' salary, a promise I'd made in good faith, felt heavier than it ever had. "Guess I failed," I said. Or maybe I passed. Hard to tell when you're the only one grading the exam. Then I turned to her college roommate, Riley. She looked like she'd seen a bird strike, eyes wide, face pale, gripping her coffee cup like it was keeping her anchored. "Hey, Riley," I said casually, like I was asking someone to pass the salt. "Want to go out sometime? I'm single now." Her eyes darted between me and Amber, panic written across her features. "Colton, I can't." I nodded. "Didn't think so." "Worth asking, though?" Amber's mouth dropped open, stunned. "Are you seriously hitting on my best friend right now?" "No," I said, placing the ring on the table between us with the soft clink of metal on wood. "I'm just making a point. Since you're so big on surprises and tests, I figured I'd toss in one of my own." Nervous laughter stirred from one side of the table. Not because it was funny, but because no one knew what else to do. The whole situation had gone off script, and nobody had a playbook for this kind of turbulence. Amber leaned forward, voice low and sharp. "You're humiliating yourself." "No," I replied, looking her dead in the eyes. "You did that for me. I'm just standing in the wreckage, trying to figure out if there's anything worth salvaging." Her perfect smile vanished. "You're overreacting," she muttered, but it was quieter now, less certain. "I expected more from you." I leaned in a little, matching her energy. "And I expected you to love me. But hey, looks like we're both disappointed today." She went silent, her social media confidence finally cracking. The server approached our table like ground crew in a crossfire, clearly wishing he was anywhere else. Do you want me to box that up, sir?" I smiled, the first genuine. Expression I'd managed since this whole nightmare began. Nah, just add it to her tab. She's celebrating her freedom. And I walked away. Behind me, voices murmured, chairs shifted, and Amber sat frozen, lips parted, but no words coming out. Riley turned to her slowly, whispering something no one else heard. But I was already moving, my training taking over. When the aircraft is compromised, you don't stick around to watch it spiral. You execute your exit strategy and get clear. I didn't look back because something inside me had snapped clean, and I wasn't about to piece it back together for someone who broke it on purpose. By evening, Dallas had cooled down, but my downtown loft was heavy with the kind of heat that had nothing to do with the weather. I didn't say a word when I walked through the door, just kicked off my dress shoes, rolled up my sleeves, and opened the hallway closet. The smell of her vanilla perfume still clung to her blazers. That detail hit harder then. Expected turbulence, but I pushed past it and grabbed the first armful of her stuff. In the background, my old playlist started humming, classic rock from when we used to cook together on lazy Sundays, back when she'd wear my pilot shirts and dance around the kitchen. Freebird, of course. The song she once said made her feel free. Free. The irony wasn't lost on me now. I dropped the blazers into a cardboard box I'd pulled from storage, labeled it with a Sharpie, bedroom closet. Then I headed straight for the dresser. I'd learned precision from aviation. Everything in its place, every procedure followed to the letter. Emergency checklists exist for a reason, and this was definitely an emergency. So I followed protocol, assess the damage, secure the aircraft, execute evacuation procedures. Her jewelry box sat on the dresser, still playing that tinkling melody when opened. Inside, the earrings I'd bought her for our second anniversary, the necklace from last. Christmas, all of it had to go, not out of spite, but out of necessity. You don't keep reminders of system failures. The front door opened behind me a few minutes later. Colton. Amber's voice cut through the apartment like a radio transmission through static. What are you doing? I didn't answer right away. I was kneeling in front of her drawer, folding her sweaters one by one, calm, methodical. The same way I'd fold my uniform shirts for a week-long trip. I'm packing your things, I said simply, sealing a box with a slow, steady rip of tape. Her heels clicked across the hardwood until she stood in the doorway, arms crossed, still in that same white dress from brunch. She looked like she hadn't changed, hadn't even blinked since dropping the bomb earlier, still playing the part of the wronged party. You're seriously doing this? She asked. Come on, Colton. That was brunch. I was emotional. I stood, turned toward her, and gave a half laugh. No, that wasn't emotional. That was calculated, like a pre-planned emergency drill, except you forgot to brief the other participants. She rolled her eyes. It wasn't meant to go that far. No. I grabbed another drawer, yanked it open. You canceled our wedding in front of my family, our friends. You said you don't love me. That's not a slip-up, Amber. That's the final approach with landing gear up. She moved closer, her defensive posture softening slightly. I said it to see how you'd react. I stopped folding. She kept going. I needed to know if you'd fight for me, if you'd show you still wanted this, if you'd prove that all your stability and calm actually meant something when it mattered. You needed to embarrass me to figure that out. My voice stayed level even, but I felt the anger building like pressure in an aircraft cabin. You humiliated me in front of everyone. That wasn't a test. That was public execution. She blinked fast, and for a moment I saw something crack in her composure. I thought you'd chase me. I thought you'd get angry, fight for us, show some passion for once instead of just accepting everything. I'm not chasing someone who runs on purpose just to be caught. I looked her square in the eye. You're not confused, Amber. You're cruel. That one landed. She dropped her arms, swallowed hard, the social media confidence finally deserting her completely. Colton, you're blowing this out of proportion. You're acting like we can't talk about it, work through this like adults. We're not talking, I said, pointing to the boxes lined up by the door. We're executing a controlled evacuation, moving your stuff out, my life forward. She stepped into the room now, frustration bubbling under her breath like steam from an overheated engine. This is dramatic. No, I said, picking up the final box and setting it by the door with the others. Dramatic was you performing heartbreak like it was theater. This? I gestured around the room, now noticeably emptier. This is standard operating procedure after catastrophic system failure. She looked at the boxes, all labeled, all real. Her voice cracked for the first time. So that's it? You're throwing us away? 5 years, Colton. 5 years of building something together. I walked past her and opened the closet by the entryway, grabbed her travel bag, the one we bought for our honeymoon in Cabo that apparently wasn't happening anymore. The tags were still on it. I placed it next to her shoes, next to the life we'd been planning. You ended it? I said calmly, my pilot voice steady and final. I'm just following the flight plan you filed. There was a long silence. Then her voice dropped to something softer, more vulnerable than I'd heard in months. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, I replied, finally turning to face her fully. But you're not staying here tonight, not after what you pulled today. She stood frozen, in the hallway, her pride clearly trying to hold up whatever was left of her armor, but her eyes shimmered, betraying the storm she was trying to bottle. All the Instagram confidence, all the social media bravado, none of it worked when the cameras weren't rolling. I didn't think you'd actually... She started, then stopped. I'm not asking, I cut in. I'm telling. This is me being the man you said you wanted, decisive, taking control, not just rolling over. A minute passed, then another, and slowly, with trembling fingers, she began zipping up the travel bag. 15 minutes later, she stood at the door with everything she could carry. Her voice cracked just once. I didn't think you'd stop loving me this fast. I didn't respond because love wasn't the issue anymore. Respect was. And she lost mine when she made a game out of devotion, when she turned our relationship into a loyalty test with an audience. She walked out without another word. No grand apology. No second act. I closed the door behind her, leaned against it, and just stood there. Not angry, not broken, just done. Complete shutdown. Final quiet. The next morning, the quiet felt unnatural. Not peaceful, not gentle, just dead. Like the silence in a cockpit after engine failure. Everything too still, too wrong. I sat on the living room couch, alone now, my elbows on my knees. A half-cold cup of coffee forgotten on the floor. Around me, all the signs of a future that no longer existed. The unopened wedding gifts were stacked like cargo containers, waiting for a flight that had been permanently grounded. Monogram towels, serving sets, picture frames still in bubble wrap. One box had a handwritten note taped to it. To Colton and Amber, for your first anniversary dinner, with love, Aunt Carol. I stared at it so long, my vision blurred. Aunt Carol, who'd driven 8 hours from Houston, who'd already bought her dress for the wedding, already booked her hotel room. Now I had to explain to her why her gift was going back to the store unopened. The couch where she used to sit, curled up with her laptop, researching wedding vendors and posting inspiration photos, was empty. The blanket she loved was still there, folded too neatly on the armrest. It smelled like her shampoo, like coconut, and something tropical that reminded me of the vacation we'd taken to Hawaii last year. The one where she'd said she finally understood what it meant to feel completely safe with someone. My phone buzzed. Just a notification, nothing from her. I unlocked it anyway and found myself scrolling back through old texts, pictures. One from last year popped up randomly. Her in the kitchen making pancakes in my pilot shirt, smiling like she didn't know I was taking the picture. She sent it with, I never thought safe could feel this good. I locked the phone and set it face down. Safe, right? Apparently, safe was the problem. My thumb drifted over the calendar app, still, marked Wedding Saturday. 3 days away. 3. The caterers were booked, the guest list printed. My co-pilot Mason had just picked up his tuxedo yesterday, joking about how he'd better not embarrass me in his best man speech. The jazz quartet was probably rehearsing our first dance song. And now what? Do I just hit delete and send out some cold announcement to 100 people who thought they were coming to celebrate? I grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. Didn't even check what was playing. Just needed background noise to stop the echoes in my head. The sound of her voice saying she didn't love me. The clink of my ring hitting the table. The awkward silence that followed. The screen lit up showing a rerun of some sitcom I couldn't name. A couple argued, then made up in 30 seconds. Laugh track roaring behind them like everything was hilarious. Like relationship problems were just punchlines waiting to happen. I muted it. The room stayed silent. That's the thing nobody talks about. After a breakup, especially one like this, it's not the crying or the yelling that breaks you. It's the silence. The kind that seeps into the walls, settles into the furniture, the kind that makes your home feel like a hangar for plans that never made it off the ground. I looked over at the kitchen. Her favorite mug was still in the sink, the one with World's Okayest Girlfriend that she'd bought as a joke for herself. She always left it there, swore she'd get to it later, said the dishwasher was for important dishes only. I used to tease her about it, call her a kitchen slob while I loaded everything properly by size and function. Now, I couldn't bring myself to wash it, because if I did, it might be like she never lived here at all. And the truth was, I didn't know if I wanted that yet, not today. So I just sat there in the silence, in the grief, still not ready to call it over, but nowhere near able to pretend it wasn't. By Monday morning, I made my decision. I brewed my coffee like usual, dark roast, no sugar, the way airline coffee had trained me to drink it, sat at the kitchen table and opened the wedding spreadsheet she and I had spent months building. Guest list, vendor contacts, hotel blocks, timeline coordinates, all of it laid out like a flight plan for a destination that no longer existed. I stared at it for a long time, remembering how excited she'd been organizing everything, how she'd color-coded the spreadsheet and cross-referenced it with 3 different planning apps, how she'd called me at work to tell me she'd found the perfect centerpieces. Then I began canceling. Rose florist, canceled. Photographer, canceled. The jazz trio we'd booked from Austin, canceled. The venue coordinator, canceled. The cake decorator who'd spent weeks perfecting our design, canceled. It wasn't emotional, just methodical. One call after another. There's been a change of plans, I'd say. We won't be moving. Forward with the ceremony. Same script, delivered with the same professional calm I used for passenger announcements. Most people were kind. A few asked what happened. I didn't explain, not once. You don't owe anyone details about your aircraft malfunction. When it was done, I opened the group chat titled Wedding Guests, Colton and Amber, and typed one line, "The wedding is off. Thank you for your support." I hovered my thumb over the screen and sent it. That was it. That single moment. Not her words at brunch, not the boxes by the door. That's when it truly became real. I sat back in the chair, drained. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. Texts, missed calls, questions I had no desire to answer. I didn't reply to any of them. When you're dealing with system failure, you don't take passenger complaints. You focus on flying the aircraft. By the time the sun went down, the apartment felt quieter than ever. And then the knock came, loud, sharp, no hesitation. I opened the door, and there she was. Amber, hair pulled up in a messy bun, hoodie hanging off one shoulder, eyes swollen and red. She looked at me like I'd just told her we were in an unrecoverable spin. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she snapped, pushing past me into the apartment like she still lived there. I closed the door quietly behind her. "I got 20 texts in the last hour," she said, pacing. "People asking why the wedding's canceled. Why, Colton? What did you do?" I leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, voice calm. I told them the truth, that the wedding's off. Her voice cracked. "That's not what we agreed on." "No," I said. "That's what you decided. I just followed through." She stopped moving, her lips parted, no words coming out. "You said you didn't love me, Amber," I continued. "In front of everyone at a brunch you planned, and you thought what? I'd hold the door open for you to walk back through whenever you felt like it?" Her face contorted. "It wasn't supposed to end like this." I tilted my head. "You thought I'd chase you." "No, I thought you'd understand," she said, tears spilling now. "It was a moment, Colton. I was scared." "You weaponized fear," I said evenly, "and now you're angry I didn't play along." The silence settled between us like smoke. Her chest rose and fell in shallow bursts. Her mascara had started to run. "I didn't mean it," she whispered. "You meant enough of it to say it out loud," I replied. She shook her head, backing away slowly. "You're really not going to undo this, are you?" "No," I said. "I'm not." Her voice dropped, barely audible. "So this is it?" "Yeah," I said gently. "This is it." She didn't cry again. She didn't beg. She just stood there, letting the reality press in from every side. Then she nodded once, turned, and walked toward the door. Her fingers hesitated on the knob. "I didn't think you'd actually let me go," she murmured. "I didn't think you'd actually leave," I replied. The door opened. She stepped through, and I watched her disappear down the hall, slow and unsure for the first time in years. I closed the door, locked it, and stood there with my forehead resting against the wood. The text came mid-morning, just as I was trying to lose myself in flight schedules. Riley. Hey, can we talk? Coffee, Westside Cafe, noon. I stared at her name on my screen. For a second, I almost ignored it, but something about her silence during the brunch, her face when I'd asked her out in that moment of sheer defiance, it hadn't felt like rejection. It felt like guilt. I showed up 10 minutes early, couldn't sit still at home anyway. The place was quiet, tucked into a corner of Bishop Arts District. No jazz, no bridal chatter, just the hum of espresso machines and the soft clink of ceramic cups. Riley walked in right on time. Black jeans, gray coat, no makeup this time. She looked human, honest, nervous. Hey, she said softly, sliding into the seat across from me. Hey. She ordered chamomile tea. I stuck with black coffee. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she took a breath. I owe you the truth. I didn't interrupt, just stared into my cup, waiting. She fiddled with the string on her tea bag. Amber's little speech at brunch. It wasn't spontaneous. I looked up. She kept her eyes down. It was planned, not word for word, but yeah. She told us a few days before that she was going to shake things up. Said she wanted to see if you'd fight for her. She called it a loyalty test. I leaned back, exhaling through my nose. Wow. She thought if she pushed you away and you chased her anyway, that would prove something. Riley finally met my gaze. I told her it was cruel. I told her it would blow up in her face. Then why didn't you stop her? Riley's eyes filled with something between shame and sadness. I tried, but she doesn't. Listen to anyone when she gets like that. And I guess I didn't try hard enough. I nodded slowly. So she wanted to see if I'd humiliate myself to prove I cared. Pretty much. I shook my head, laughing bitterly. Real love doesn't set traps. I know. Why are you telling me now? Because after you sent that message canceling the wedding, I realized she's still spinning the story like you gave up, and I couldn't live with that. I let that sit for a moment. Then I said, thanks. Riley leaned in slightly. You deserve someone who doesn't need to test you to feel loved, Colton. It was Thursday night when my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen since the engagement dinner. Richard Kane, Amber's dad. I let it ring twice, then picked up. Colton, his deep voice boomed. We need to talk. I figured this call was coming. Amber told us you canceled the wedding, sent some cryptic message to everyone, and didn't say a word to us. That's not exactly what happened, I said. Your daughter ended the engagement in public, in front of everyone. A pause. She said she didn't love me, I added. At the brunch, loud enough for half of Deep Ellum to hear. Richard exhaled heavily. She told us it was a misunderstanding, said she panicked that you overreacted. Sir, she called off the wedding in front of our families. She admitted that it was a loyalty test, that she wanted to see if I'd chase her. She said that? Susan's voice, soft and sharp. She did, I said, and her best friend confirmed it. I could hear Richard mutter something under his breath. She was always stubborn, Richard finally said. Always had to push things to the edge. She pushed this one too far, I said quietly. You're right, he said. You did the right thing, son. I didn't realize how badly I needed to hear that until he said it. By Friday morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. At first, I ignored it. Figured it was more canceled RSVPs or wedding vendors trying to salvage their weekend. But when I finally gave in and opened my notifications, I saw it wasn't from anyone I'd contacted. It was from everyone else. The ones I hadn't spoken to, the ones who weren't at that rooftop brunch, the ones who only knew what Amber's friends had decided to post. I tapped into Instagram first. There it was. A story from her friend Skylar. Imagine throwing away a 5-year relationship over one emotional moment. Cowards run, real men fight. Then another from Brooke, her college roommate. You think you know someone until they take the easy way out. Not all heartbreak is betrayal. Some of it is just weakness in disguise. The captions weren't subtle. Neither were the comments piling beneath them. I was being painted as the villain, the man who couldn't handle a real woman with emotions, the guy who abandoned his fiancée after one little test. I didn't respond. I didn't repost. I didn't even like or dislike anything. Let them talk. Let them twist it however they needed to sleep at night. But then around noon, the entire tone shifted. I got a ping from Riley. "Check Amber's story, now." I hesitated, then opened the app. It was just a black screen with white text, no filter, no music. Simple, raw. "Some of you have asked why the wedding was canceled. I'm not proud of the truth, but I'm going to own it. I called it off in public. It was my idea. I wanted to see if Colton would fight for me if I pushed him away. I thought it would show something deeper, but it just exposed something ugly in me. He didn't run. He respected what I said. I hurt someone who loved me, and I don't blame him for walking away. Please stop attacking him. This was my doing." There was a pause, just a beat, before the reactions started to flood in. Dozens of comments, a few stunned emojis, a lot of silent reposts. The group chat I'd been left out of suddenly turned inward. I didn't need to be in it to know. Screenshots started popping up from people I barely knew. Skylar's next story was just a white screen with 3 dots. Brooke deleted her entire feed, and Riley. She posted a picture of that cafe napkin we'd both folded into shapes just 2 days ago. Her caption said, "Some people try to rewrite the story. Others just tell the truth. Good on you, Colton." I didn't respond to that either, didn't need to, because for the first time since this mess began, I didn't have to defend myself. The truth was doing it for me. It was the night before my birthday, and the city was already wrapped in a cold December hush. I was halfway through lacing up my boots when I heard the knock. I opened the door. There she was, Amber, hair pulled into a soft braid, cheeks a little pink from the wind, arms wrapped tightly around a white box with a silver ribbon. "I, baked your favorite," she said finally, holding the box out slightly. "Chocolate raspberry, with the cream cheese frosting, the one from last year." I didn't take the box, I didn't invite her in, I just stared. "I know tomorrow's your birthday," she added quickly, "and I didn't want it to pass like this. You have more important things than my birthday, remember?" That stopped her. Her mouth parted like she had something ready, some line, some explanation, but it dissolved in the silence. "I made a mistake," she said finally. "I thought I could handle seeing you walk away. I thought I was testing us for the right reasons, Colton. But I was just scared. I'm late," I said simply, opening the door behind her. "For what?" I looked at her for the first time, really looked at her, and I didn't feel anger or love or even grief, just distance. You don't get to ask that anymore. I wasn't in the mood to celebrate, not really, but my co-pilot Mason insisted. He'd rented the back room of a quiet lodge upstate, nothing flashy, just some exposed brick, a fireplace, and a few friends who didn't ask too many questions. There was chili and slow cookers, store-bought cupcakes, and someone brought bourbon I'd never asked for but didn't mind sipping. It was simple, honest, no expectations, no speeches, and it felt like the first birthday in years where I could breathe without pretending. When the door creaked open behind us, I turned instinctively, and there she was. Amber. Not just her. Skylar, Brooke, even Riley trailing behind like this was some kind of intervention. They stood just inside the door, all eyes turning toward them. Every conversation died. Amber stepped forward, holding nothing this time. No cake, no excuses, just her trembling hands and flushed face. "Colton," she said, her voice echoing louder than she probably expected. "I know I wasn't invited. I know I have no right to be here." She glanced at my friends, then back to me. "But I'm here because I need to say something I should have said. Weeks ago." Before I could speak, she dropped to her knees. Gasps filled the room. My drink tilted in my hand. "I was wrong," she said, voice trembling but strong. "About everything." "Amber, get up," I muttered under my breath. "Don't do this here." She shook her head. "No, I need to." Her eyes scanned the room, landing on Skylar and Brooke. I let them talk me into it, the test, the speech at brunch. I knew it was toxic, and I did it anyway. She turned back to me. I was scared of being loved so completely, so unconditionally, that I convinced myself I had to prove it. Her voice cracked. "I didn't trust what we had, and I broke something that took years to build. That's on me, not you." Behind her, Skylar stepped forward slowly, reluctantly. "We were wrong too," she said. "We told her it would be empowering, that it would bring you two closer." Brooke added, "It was stupid, immature. We were all wrong." And then Amber looked up, still on her knees. I don't want a wedding because you passed some test, Colton, she said. I want it because I love you, because losing you showed me exactly what I ruined. She paused, and I swear, no more games, no more tests, just the truth. I crouched, not low enough to match her, but just enough to meet her halfway. I'm not here because I need you to beg, I said quietly. I'm here because I wanted peace. I know. I studied her, trying to find the performance I feared. But there was no show this time, just Amber. Not the version I was engaged to. Not the one who needed control, just the woman who finally stopped pretending. One chance, I said slowly. That's all I've got left. Her eyes widened. I won't waste it. I helped her to her feet. The moment was tender, but it wasn't romantic. Not yet. It was just real. Exactly 1 week later, we stood in a small garden just outside the city, fragrant with pine and early winter roses. No orchestra, no guest list in the triple digits, just 27 people who mattered. Amber stood beside me in a simple cream dress. When she looked up at me, there was no veil, no makeup mask, no polished smile, just her face, open, real. We signed the papers. She signed first, her pen moving slow, deliberate. When she handed it to me, our fingers brushed. Her eyes were glassy, lips slightly parted like she was holding her breath. I signed. It was done. Mason stepped forward, clapped a hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing, bro, he whispered. She learned. I gave a small nod, because I wasn't standing there out of pride or pity or fear of being alone. I was standing there because she came back, not just to me, but to herself. 5 years. That's how long it's been since that rooftop brunch exploded the world I thought I wanted and gave me the one I actually needed. Our home now sits on the edge of a quiet suburb outside Dallas. Amber and I still argue sometimes. We're not perfect, but here's the difference. We don't test each other anymore. We talk. No raised voices meant to corner, no silent punishments meant to provoke, no games. The moment one of us starts retreating into old patterns, the other calls it out. It's not comfortable, but it's real. And that's the life we built. Not on trust we never questioned, but on trust we fought tooth and nail to earn back. We keep the framed photo from our garden ceremony on the mantle next to a little wooden sign that reads, "Truth over comfort." People ask if I forgave her. I didn't. We outgrew what needed forgiveness. There's a difference. Looking back, I don't wish the betrayal away. I don't wish for the easy version of love that never got tested, because we'd never have learned what we did, that love isn't proven in pain. It's protected through respect, and that giving someone a second chance only works when you give yourself a first one too. Riley could have stayed silent, but instead she told me the truth when no one else would. I still wonder, was she brave for speaking up, or did she owe it to me after standing by Amber's plan? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if this story hit home, don't forget to like and subscribe.